What's going on, beautiful and exotic women of the world? Today I want to discuss why you should not feel pressured to be in spaces that don't serve you just because you share similarities in skin color. So what I'm specifically talking about is Black empowerment spaces. And we all know those spaces on YouTube include channels like Chrissy and the once Paris Milan. The reason why I want to talk about this is because we all know that there are darker skinned exotical women in the world, and Exoticals United definitely spoke about this many times, and it was actually the channel that kind of enlightened me to realize who I was, because I always found myself trying to force myself into Black empowerment spaces, or I felt like I needed to be an advocate in those spaces or an ally for those women in those spaces, even though deep down I did not resonate with a lot of those experiences. I didn't have bad problems with men and getting a date or being complimented or being seen as the beauty standard or being seen as beautiful. I didn't have issues with getting picked for jobs or getting chosen for opportunities because of my color. So there was always that slight disconnect where, yes, the one thing me and these women had in common was similar skin tones, but everything else kind of fell by the wayside because I didn't relate to them. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today, y'all. All skin folk is not kinfolk. So just because you may share similar skin tone to these women who are unambiguous Black women and who are heavy in the Black empowerment spaces, that does not mean that you all are the same. That doesn't mean that you are kin. That doesn't mean that you all have the same experiences. A lot of times those women make the mistake of trashing and bashing women who are light skinned or women who share their same skin tone but are exoticized in society, meaning they have keen features, they have looser curl textures, they benefit from the isms in some way, shape, or form. They tend to kind of put a blanket over those women's experiences and try to invalidate those experiences. And God forbid you're in those spaces and you speak up and say, hey, I am a dark skin or brown skin exotical, and although I have the same skin tone as a lot of you women within the Black empowerment space, I can't relate to these experiences that you're talking about. They're going to chew your head off. They're going to eat you alive because you aren't helping with the narrative. You are actually contradicting the narrative. Their narrative is dark skin and unambiguousness equals less fortunate in the world, less fortunate in society, less opportunities. Now, here you come, a gorgeous brown skin or dark skin exotical who benefits from maybe texturism and featureism, but you happen to share the same skin tone as a lot of these women, and you're letting them know, hey, I never really had those experiences. Oh, you think you're better. Oh, you think you're so exotic. You think you're so different. Oh, you're still dark. You're still dark. You're still Black. You're still Black. And it's like they jump down your throat before they can even take a second to listen to you, right? And realize, hey, maybe it's not just about skin tone. Maybe it's about who's pretty and who's not, And I don't want to sound mean here, but there's a channel on YouTube called Blunt Girly, and she talked about this in her Colorism series. And she's a dark-skinned woman herself, and she said a lot of times these women complain, but they're really just complaining about being unattractive. And I've kind of spoken on this too. I kind of tried to tread lightly and not step on anyone's toes in the videos where I talked about it because I didn't want to hurt feelings. But if you go over to Blunt Girly's channel, she's lighting people up. She's telling it how it really is. And she said it herself. She said a lot of these women who complain about colorism are really just complaining about being unattractive. And when you come along as a brown or dark skin exotical and you start sharing how you've had really positive experiences in dating and how you've been chosen above even white and non-Black Hispanic women or Asian women, they don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that shit, because what that says is, oh, it's not just about color. It's about your facial features. It's about your facial symmetry. It's about how your features complement your face. It's about how your hair frames your face and how pretty your curls are. Once you start getting into that territory, they don't want to hear it, because then they would have to admit that it's not about color. It's really about, are you pretty? Are you beautiful? Are you gorgeous? Or are you not? And that is not something that they're going to outwardly admit. These women who get on these Black empowerment spaces and trash exotical women, whether they're on the lighter side of the spectrum or the darker side of the spectrum, will not admit that it's not about color. It really is about attractiveness. And because they can't blatantly say that out loud, because then they would have to admit that they maybe aren't blessed with in the looks department, they're going to cling to, oh, it's my color, it's the color. While I do understand that colorism is a thing and it does exist, it is not always the case. But what I don't like is that these same women will come for exotical women. They will come for the lighter skinned ones. They will talk about how they're liracials and they're funny face light skins. Like, I seen some girl on TikTok talk about funny face light skins, and I always cringe when I see her do this, because I'm like, girl, that's so derogatory and nasty. They're quick to pounce on exotical women for speaking on their experiences that differ from them, because if we speak on our experiences and we say, hey, I didn't experience this, I don't have trouble getting a date. Men don't try to call me names or say that I'm ugly. I don't experience people calling me unattractive to my face in public. I don't experience being discriminated against alongside my light-skinned counterparts at work or in school. I get treated equally. I get treated fairly. They want to jump down our throats and pounce on us when we speak about these things, because what we're doing then when we speak on that is we're showing that there is clearly a divide. And when you look at it from a bird's eye view, you see typically the women who aren't complaining about colorism tend to be the more attractive ones. They tend to be the women who benefit from some type of ism. And guess what? That's not something that we can control. I didn't ask to be born with 3C hair. I didn't ask to have my brown skin. I didn't ask to have my West Indian features. It just happened that way. And I also find it funny how these women want you to vouch for them, but won't vouch for you. They want you to be in their spaces and empower them and lift them up and recognize their beauty and compliment their 4C hair or 4B hair. They want you to be in the spaces and kind of be on the back burner. I remember in college, I found it so hard to blend in with the Black Student Union and with the African Student Union, because a lot of them, for one, didn't like me already because of previous beef, which was one-sided with them. They just were jealous and envious, and they didn't like me. I also found it very weird that when I was in those spaces, they were cold towards me. When I would make comments or when I would make suggestions, they really weren't receptive to me. And it was very heavily populated with unambiguous dark-skinned people. And I find that they had such this close bond, and they were so cool, and they would do things outside of the club. And I would just think to myself, like, why hasn't any of them tried to befriend me or get to know me when I would try to be an open book and get to know them? And it clicked for me that they don't see themselves in me, therefore they can't be friends with me, because their narratives that they're pushing or the things that they're insecure about will be amplified if they were to be in close proximity with me or befriend me. And this is why a lot of times in my past, in college and in high school and before then, I didn't really have a lot of Black friends. It was very rare that I had unambiguous Black friends, because a lot of them always either hated me from the rip, or if I was to become cool with them, they would end up trying to hurt me or sabotage me, or would just be envious of me and try to compete with me. It never ended well, if it even started. So I noticed in my past, I had a lot of friends who were in between. So I had a lot of light-skinned Black friends who were mixed with Black and Hispanic, or Black and Asian, or West Indian girls who I was friends with who were my skin tone or lighter. I could never be cool or have a long-term friendship for some reason with women on both ends of the extreme. So I could never keep or maintain a friendship with a white girl for too long, because it would always end up being some nonsense. I could never keep or maintain a friendship with a non-Black Hispanic person who was white passing for too long, because it would always be some competition and some nonsense. And on the other end of the spectrum, I could never make or maintain a friendship with a dark-skinned, unambiguous Black woman because of obvious reasons. So it's just always been the in-between girlies for me that I've been able to get along with. My best friend in college, who stuck by my side throughout all of the smear campaigns and all of the nonsense that I went through, is Dominican and Black, and she literally looks like Zoe Saldana. So just for you guys to kind of get an idea. But that's the type of woman and girl that I've kind of been friends with and who I've kind of attracted and who's kind of stuck. If I'm being honest, it's been Caribbean women who are either light skin or my complexion. If they were any darker, it would not get along. If they were unambiguous, we would not get along. It just wouldn't wouldn't work. And it's not because I didn't want it to work. It was because these people harbored hate in their hearts toward me because of how I looked. And it just has always been that way. And I also remember one time I was on TikTok, and there's this one girl, she's African, and she talks about how she benefits from pretty privilege even though she's dark-skinned and unambiguous. And there was one time that she was talking about how she had a hard time getting into clubs and just her different experiences that she's had with women and with men and stuff. And one girl stitched her video saying how she doesn't have that experience even though she's dark skinned, but this girl that stitched the video was an exotical. And man, did that ruffle the original girl's feathers. The original girl who made the video was like, you see, these are the type of women I talk about. These are the type of black women who I talk about. The ones that think that they're better because they have small features. And I just remember thinking to myself, girl, you are a hater. Like, in one breath, you're saying that you have pretty privilege, but in another breath, you're trying to humble an actual exotical because you realize that there's something different between you two. Like, which one is it? Do you benefit from pretty privilege? And because if that was the case, you wouldn't feel threatened by a woman who has the same skin tone as you saying that she doesn't experience those things. Why are you so triggered, babe? I wish I could find that video, but it was like maybe like late last year I saw that video. But that just always stuck with me. I always remembered that because I'm like, girl, you say you benefit from pretty privilege. What's the problem if this girl says that she doesn't have those issues? You should agree with her. You should be on the same page. But that just shows that these people are living in delusion because they actually don't have pretty privilege and they're just putting on a front for social media. So ladies, don't feel like you have to feel pressured into entering these spaces on social media and like jumping on the bandwagon of black empowerment if they're not uplifting and empowering you. If they want you for the numbers and for your support, but they can't turn around and say, you're beautiful too, even though you're an exotical who's dark skinned, that shows that they have insecurities that they're not being honest about, and they're trying to use you for your energy and for your attention and for your praise. Also remember that in these YouTube streets, there are a lot of black empowerment channels and girls who talk a lot of crap about darker skinned women and brown skinned women who are exoticized in society, and they have a huge problem with us. They hate us, right? But they're going to turn around and divest or get with a light-skinned man and make us. I just don't understand it. I don't get it. My own mother was like this. But this is what happens with these women in these spaces, and you can't force them to accept you or love you or view you as non-threatening because they're going to view you how they want to, which is through the lens of being insecure and threatened by you. So ladies, drop down in the comment section and let me know your thoughts. I'll also be leaving my email in the description box so you can share your stories with me there as well. Have a lovely day, ladies.